She proposed not a merger of empire, but of hearts. What happens when rivals become partners, not in business, but in love? Would you trade your legacy for love? She did. And he walked away from power to stand beside her. Previously in Beneath Velvet Fire, Kyan sacrificed his name and future at Alarak Tech, while Elyra stood at the edge of an empire alone, until she found him, not in a boardroom, but in a quiet seaside town. In their reunion, they chose love over legacy. But their story isn't ending, it's about to transform everything. Chapter 13, 2 Empire, 1 Flame. Elyra stood on the edge of the old Arclight Terrace, overlooking the skyline that had once felt like a battlefield. Now, it felt like a beginning. The city below glittered in cold blues and golds, buildings bearing names she once thought defined her. Arclight, Alarak, towers of power, of pressure, of history carved in contracts and caution. But tonight, the woman standing above it all wasn't her father's daughter. Nor the heiress the media adored or feared. She was just Elyra, and behind her, Kyan approached, slow, steady, warm. They hadn't spoken about what came next, not clearly, not aloud. They had cleared their names, freed their families, told the truth. But what came after justice? That was always the harder part. Elyra, Kyan said softly, joining her at the railing. You are too quiet. She turned to him, her hair caught in the wind, eyes sharper than ever. I've been thinking, she said, about what we're building, what it really is. Kyan waited, silent. He knew Elyra never offered half-baked ideas. She didn't hand over fragments. She delivered fire. I don't want to rebuild Arclight, she continued. And I don't want you to rebuild Alarak, either. I want something else, something bold. His brow lifted. A merger, she said. He blinked. Of. She stepped closer. Of legacies, not companies, not departments, but you and me, side by side. No heirs, no shadows, just leaders, equal, partners. Elyra and Kyan, a new name, a new empire, and no one's ghost trailing behind us. Kyan was quiet for a long time. Then, slowly, he smiled. Are you proposing to me, professionally? Elyra didn't smile back, not yet. This isn't a flirtation. I know, he said, voice softer. It's a revolution. She nodded. So, will you burn the old flags with me? Kyan looked at her like she was a son he had been chasing for a lifetime, and only now realized was standing still just for him. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out something small, a ring. Not for marriage, for alliance. Polished black metal, their new logo engraved inside, a phoenix twisting around a flame. I've been carrying it, he admitted. Since the day you found me in that quiet town. Waiting for the right moment. Elyra took it slowly, slid it onto her right hand. Not her heart, her will. Then let's start it. They called it Arclorak, a fusion, not just of names, but of philosophies. Gone was the obsession with control and PR perfect projections. In its place, transparency, innovation, and social equity. Their foundation's programs expanded across universities. Women in tech, ethics in AI, mentorship for legacy excluded minds. The media adored it. More importantly, the people believed it. Their new headquarters wasn't some silver spire in a business district. It was a glass-structured building with public forums, community workspaces, and a library of business case failures, open for learning. At its center, the Phoenix Chamber, where Elyra and Kyan held meetings together. No thrones, just 2 seats at one table. Equal, side by side. And still, their fire never dimmed. They weren't the couple who flaunted love on red carpets. But there were moments that whispered. When Elyra's hand would linger an extra second on Kyan's wrist during a meeting. When Kyan would glance toward her during panels, waiting for her nod before speaking. Once, in an investor dinner, Elyra diffused an aggressive question with a joke Kyan had whispered to her days before. The room laughed. He just looked at her like she'd rewritten gravity. Months passed. Power shifted. And one day, Elyra returned to her father's study, not in rebellion, but resolve. He sat quietly, older now. Less angry, perhaps even proud. I read your vision report, he said. It's bold. It's not for you, she said gently. It's for everyone who was once told to play safe. And Kyan? He asked. Is he your future? Eliara looked out the window, where Kyan waited outside, arms crossed, wind tousling his hair. He's not my future, she replied. He's my present. And my match. Her father didn't respond for a long time. Then, he said, you always were the flame. I just tried too long to make you ice. Later that night, on the rooftop of Arcloric HQ, Kyan and Eliara sat with coffee instead of wine. She leaned into his shoulder. We're doing it. We are. It's terrifying. Yeah, but I wouldn't do it with anyone else. He turned and kissed her forehead, letting his lips linger. Me neither. Do you ever wonder, she asked, if we hadn't fought so hard, would we have even found each other? He shook his head. I think we were written in the same fire. Eliara smiled, for the first time in her life, not because she was winning, but because she had peace and love that didn't demand softening, but respected her edge. Chapter 14, The Fire Beneath the Velvet. The grand courtyard of the Astorian Hotel shimmered in candlelight. Velvet-draped tables, clinking glasses, and the subtle hum of a string quartet whispered luxury into the air. But Eliara Velian stood still on the balcony above, her gaze fixed on the fireworks that had just started to bloom across the midnight sky. Behind her, the gala continued, their first joint event as heads of the merged empire. She had worn power like a crown tonight. A crimson satin gown, high collar and bare shoulders, matched with black gloves that reached up her arms like armor. Her heels had tapped purposefully across marble, her voice had commanded the room with poise. And yet now, under the quiet hush of the starlit terrace, she allowed herself a moment to feel it all. She had built empire of steel and strategy. But love had always been her weakness. Or so she thought. The balcony doors creaked open. She didn't need to turn to know it was him. Kyan Alarak, the man who used to be her rival. The man who now walked beside her as though it was always meant to be that way. The man who looked at her as though she was made of wonder and war at once. He stood a few steps behind, silent. I was watching you from inside, Kyan said quietly. You looked like you belonged to this world and yet far from it. She turned. And what do you mean by that? That you were the most powerful person in the room, and also the loneliest. Her lips twitched. You are starting to sound like the poet your emails try not to be. Kyan chuckled, stepping closer. I was scared, he admitted, voice soft, that if I spoke too loudly tonight, you'd vanish. Like all this wasn't real. She studied him, seeing beneath the well-cut suit and confident facade. His eyes were tired, a little too honest, a little too raw. Kyan Alarak had given up an empire to protect her name. Had walked away from everything, publicly, brutally. For her. Because of her. Why? She asked simply. He blinked. Why? What? Why did you fall for me? He paused. His breath hitched, and the air between them grew dense. You really want the truth? Always. He exhaled, then leaned against the marble railing beside her. It wasn't the masquerade, or the rooftop, or even the day I gave you that bracelet. Eliara turned to face him fully, heart beginning to race. It was college. Her brows furrowed. College? He nodded. Third year. You were storming out of a business seminar. I was arrogant, loud, fresh from a campus pitch win. You passed me, and I said something cocky. You stopped, turned, and threw your coffee in my face. Eliara's jaw dropped slightly. That was you? Kyan laughed, rubbing his neck. Yup. Double espresso. No sugar. I smelled like caffeine rage for a week. She stared, stunned. I didn't know it was you. You were such a jerk. I was, he agreed, eyes softening. But in that moment, you were electric. You didn't care who I was. You didn't smile politely or flirt like the others. You burned. Eliara looked away, heart hammering. You didn't say anything after. I didn't have to. I remembered you. And every time our companies crossed paths, I hoped I'd see that fire again. So, you liked me since then? She asked, voice lower now. He turned toward her, slowly. I loved you since then. But I didn't know it until you started walking away from me, after every fight. Every scandal, every time we could have chosen to give up. You didn't, and I realized, you were always the one I was chasing. Silence draped around them. Eliora's breath hitched. You didn't say anything because I didn't think I was enough, Cain whispered. Not for a woman like you. You carried your name like a blade and your grief like a secret. I wanted to be someone who didn't dim your fire, but protected it. Tears burned in her eyes. I hated you, she confessed. In the beginning, you were cocky, always smirking. But you made me feel things I didn't have time to feel. He took a step closer. What kind of things? Like I mattered more than my legacy. Like I could be Eliora, not just Wellion. His hand brushed her cheek, gently. You are more. She closed her eyes, leaning into his touch. You left everything for me. I didn't leave it. I chose you. The sky exploded into a swirl of gold and crimson. Their eyes met, and everything else fell away. The past, the scandals, the pain. Cain cupped her face. You scare me sometimes, you know. How easily you could break me. I won't, she whispered. Not anymore. Then, under a sky of velvet fire, their lips met. It wasn't tentative. It was full of longing, of apologies unspoken, of the years they'd wasted fighting and the lifetime they promised to build. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Cain rested his forehead against hers. We're not perfect, he said. But we're real. Eliora nodded, tears glistening but unfallen. And we're in this together. As the last firework faded into the dark, Cain took her hand. And tomorrow, he said, we light up the world. Chapter 15, Together, Forever this time. Two hearts. One vow. No more wars. Only love. The wind tasted of salt and lavender as it curled through the cypress trees dotting the cliffside path. The sun hung low, painting the waves in molten gold as they danced endlessly toward the shore. The private cove had no signs of wealth or legacy, only a single stretch of sand cradled between two wild cliffs. No cameras, no headlines, just silence. And two lovers, standing side by side, beneath a driftwood arch. Eliora had braided herself with fresh white orchids and strands of lace taken from her mother's wedding gown. She wore no diamonds, only a thin veil caught in the breeze and a linen white dress that billowed like sea foam. Cain stood barefoot in a navy vest, sleeves rolled. His eyes only on her as if the entire horizon bowed to her presence. Eliora Vian, he began, his voice low, steadied not by practice but by love. From the first day you stormed into my world, armed with words sharper than swords, I knew you'd ruin me. And I let you. Her lips trembled into a smile. I tried to ruin you, she whispered, but you rebuilt yourself beside me. He reached into his vest and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I wrote a vow, then burned it. Because how do you capture you in ink? She chuckled, tears welling. I should have known you'd be dramatic. I should have known you'd be impossible, he countered. But I choose you, even when you terrify me. Especially then. Eliora took his hands, tracing the scar across his knuckles, the one he got when he punched a wall after their forced separation. Her voice softened, dropping the armor she once wore like a second skin. Cain Ro, she said, you are my calm in the courtroom, my fire in the rain, and the only man I would ever walk into war beside, not against. The officiant, an old friend of Eliora's mother who had no stake in boardrooms or fortune, smiled gently. Do you, Cain, take Eliora to be your partner in chaos, ambition, and this quiet forever? He didn't wait. Yes. And do you, Eliora, take Cain to be your partner in reason, rebellion, and every imperfect morning that follows? Eliora looked up into his eyes, once the eyes of a rival. Now her home. I do. They kissed under the open sky. No orchestra, just the rhythm of waves. The sun dipped behind them, casting the world in twilight as if blessing their union in warmth and silence. That night, barefoot and laughing, they ran through the surf, soaked and wild. Kyan lifted her, spinning until her laughter echoed across the cliffs. Later, wrapped in a shared blanket by the fire pit, she leaned her head on his shoulder. No reporters will know this story, she murmured. Let them print what they want, Kyan said, brushing sand from her cheek. We wrote the truth where it matters. Did you ever imagine we'd end here? I imagined you punching me again, he teased. She grinned. That might still happen. Just warn me if you plan to throw coffee again. They sat in silence then, the kind that didn't ask to be filled. A silence that meant comfort, not absence. A year later, their joint company, Velvra Flame Enterprises, rose not as an empire, but as a philosophy. Transparent, ethical, ruthlessly elegant. Their parents, once foes, now stood in board meetings nodding in approval, not because they had been forced to, but because their children proved them wrong in the most poetic way possible. Kyan would glance at Eliora across the table during meetings, and she'd wink like a secret they still shared. Sometimes, people asked her, when did you fall in love? She'd smile and say, not all at once. But I knew he was mine when he let me win, and didn't gloat when he knew I hadn't. And Kyan, when asked how he won her, she always belonged to herself. I just had to be strong enough to stand beside her. That night, again by the sea, they returned to the same cove every year. No rings to flaunt, no portraits to post. Only the sound of wind, waves, and love that had outlived scandal, power, and even pride. Beneath velvet skies and beside a fire of their own making, they curled into one another, not as rivals, nor heirs, but as the only truth that ever mattered. Two hearts, one vow, together, forever this time.